papasok pa daw yung si ma'am, but we will be starting na. Naghihintay lang ako sa reply ng aking campus director. Anyways, maraming salamat. Let's check. Yun. Okay. Miss... Ayan, so thank you very much everyone for joining us here sa ating webinar series. Also, i-welcome ko na lang din si Miss Cherry Ann Lee Angoy. Hello, Miss Cherry Ann. Thank you so much din. Opo, thank you so much din sa pag-join sa atin kasi kasama natin ngayon si Sec Manny and si Sir Aris will be speaking to us about our top for this evening. Ayan. And also, we would also like to welcome our participants here in our webinar series. Maraming salamat. I'm sure some of you here are students and some of you are already working. Thank you very much. And we really appreciate your presence here. We also wanted to recognize the representative from the European Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, the Southern Mindanao Business Council, the Davao Office Manager, Ms. Rizna Angela Mendoza. Thank you so much. Also, and so we start. Good evening, change makers. Welcome to Halt Price Launchpad, the Halt Price at UM webinar series. We really thank you, and we are so delighted that you responded to the call of the Halt Prize, the biggest global movement for social enterprise, to help improve the lives of the people through business enterprise. So this is the first of the 3 sessions of the webinar series, Launchpad, na ginawa or organized ng UM, Halt Prize at UM, which is also happening in close to 3,000 universities in 121 countries right now. So Halt Prize at UM is just one of those universities that is doing this on-campus program ng Halt Prize. Okay, so our Launchpad, our webinar series aims to really provide information, ideas, learnings, and inspiration to our aspiring entrepreneurs and our aspiring challengers for the Halt Prize 2021 Challenge, which is the Food for Good, transforming food into a vehicle for change. Of course, we would like to acknowledge first our partners for the on-campus program, the UMASenso Hub. We are also supported by the Council of College Student Government, the Street By, our media partner Mindanao Times, and the partners of the Halt Prize Foundation, unicorn.org, and the United Nations through its Office of Partnership. This year's on-campus program will also not be possible without the efforts of our ever-dynamic HP at UM Executive Committee, of course headed by the campus director, Mr. Richard R. Day, the community engagement manager, Ms. Hannah Tamayo, our finance manager, Mr. Luke Perez, our social media manager, Ms. Jessica Gloria Cabanilla, and our the lady behind our beautiful posters, our content designer, Ms. Monica Maniquez. Also, we are, I still have to check with my campus director. Okay, yun na pala. You can also stream us live through our Facebook page. You can check Halt Prize at University of Mindanao Facebook page. And we also would like to invite you to follow us on Instagram and Twitter. That's at Halt Prize UM. Okay, so for questions later on, we will be accommodating them through the chat box and through the comment sections. And our HP at UM Exicom will be putting them forward for you, for our speakers. So, we are all aware that the COVID-19 pandemic has drastically changed the way we live and has affected so many aspects of our community. And it seems that it is not leaving yet anytime soon. This evening, we will explore the effects of the pandemic on our food industry. What were the challenges encountered by our producers, how they cope with it, and how can we help them and the people they served in getting through and thriving in this new normal. Of course, welcome to the Launchpad, reimagining the food industry in the new normal. I am Rob Gumba, the operations manager of the Halt Price at UM, and your moderator for tonight. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you very much. And allow me to introduce our distinguished guest. Very bigate ng ating mga guest ngayon to help you, to inspire you, and to give you ideas what will be your next enterprise. So, of course, our first guest is the seventh chair of the Mindanao Development Authority appointed by President Rodrigo Roa Duterte in August 2019. Prior to his appointment, he served as the Agriculture Secretary under the same administration. He is known for his advocacies to advance agriculture, and as the governor of Cotabato City, he implemented a bottom-up agricultural planning for priority crops such as rubber, oil, palm, banana, and coconut, which transformed the province from being one of the poorest provinces in 1998 to top 30 provinces with lowest poverty incidence in 2007. That's a great impact. That program has a great impact. As I'm in the chair, his priorities are poverty reduction, peace, and agricultural productivity. Please welcome none other than the most industrious, perhaps, our Secretary of Mindanao Development Authority, Secretary Emmanuel Manny Piñol. Ayan, wala tayong claps kasi ang operator natin nakaano pa. Anyways, our next guest, of course, is a very strong, very determined entrepreneur and very successful in her field. And she is a startup entrepreneur and a co-founder and the chief strategy officer of one of the active players, especially during the pandemic times, in the food delivery service in few major cities, with presence in few major cities in Mindanao. Please welcome the co-founder and the CSO of Street Buy, Miss Cherry Ann Lee Angoy. Hello, ma'am. Thank you so much for gracing our event. And our last but not the least guest is, he's a registered nutritionist dietitian and a U.S. Department of State Professional Fellow for Economic Empowerment. He is the COO and the co-founder of Varaco Incorporated that focuses on coffee as a global commodity and a Filipino heritage icon. He is the co-founder of Templado International Corporation, a company which aims to empower inclusive ethical coffee farming and manufacturing by value adding to increase productivity, profitability, and product quality. A Batanggenyo entrepreneur, still straight from Batangas, calling with us. Please welcome Mr. Aristelo Asilo. Ayan. Meron tayong mga claps. Thank you so much. So, to start the ball rolling, I will ask this question to all of our three speakers, and they will answer this to ask their opening statement. So, for our secretary, Sec Piñol, the question would be, what was the situation of our food industry and the food value chain in Mindanao prior to the pandemic, and how has the pandemic changed that? And to other two guests, can you tell us about your enterprise and how has the COVID-19 pandemic affected your businesses? So we will start with Sec Manny. I think you will have his presentation. Sec, take it away.
Thank you very much, Rob, and magandang gabi sa inyo lahat. I'd like to thank you for inviting me to this webinar. and I'm excited to share my thoughts, our experiences, our vision to the younger generation. Because after all, you're taking over from us. Tayo yung susunod na pulutong ng mga mag-handle ng ating agricultural programs. I am glad that young people today, more and more young people today, are getting interested in agriculture. And this is actually the proof of what I have been saying all along. You know, maraming mga plano, economic plans, lofty, ambitious. But the fact remains that the Philippines can never dream to be a manufacturer of airplanes. It's too late for us. We cannot even compete with South Korea in manufacturing cars. Pero our greatest strength actually is the fact that the Philippines is an agricultural country. We are a country of 30 million hectares. Although medyo overpopulated tayo ng konti, that area actually could sufficiently feed us if only we give focus on agriculture and food production. In addition to that, we are blessed with fertile soil and abundant water. Sometimes too abundant that it becomes a problem actually. So, but later on, I will talk about that in passing. How to manage our water resources in relation to food production. My presentation tonight is aligned with whole price movement, and I would like to establish that when I moved from the Department of Agriculture in August of 2019 to the Mindanao Development Authority, I actually emphasized four parameters in the implementation of the programs of MINDA. MINDA actually is a small agency. It's nothing compared to the DA. DA's budget at the time I was Secretary of Agriculture was about 60 billion. MINDA's budget is 170 million. It's a drop in the bucket. But the good thing about MINDA is that we plan, we package programs, and we partner with international funding agencies in implementing these programs. MINDA actually, and I would like to share, am I able to share my screen already? Rob?
Yes, sir. Sige, sir. Try
Okay.
niyo po.
Am I in?
Not yet, sir.
Okay, wait a minute. Siguro, teka muna ha. Mahirap matandang i-techie.
It's okay, sir. We understand.
Okay. Just a minute ha. Oh, there you are. Okay. So, mag-share screen ako, no? And let me start with this. Okay. All right. Am I in?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Medyo binago ko lang yung title kasi kanina ang title is rather was reimagining food supply, in the new normal. I just changed the title to ensuring food security amid the global pandemic. Before the pandemic, nagkakaproblema yung ating mga farmers because of the massive inflow of imported agricultural products. To a certain extent, imported goods actually could supplement whatever shortage we have. But the moment the volume of imported food or commodities go beyond what we actually need, it's going to be detrimental to our local producers. Okay? So, just to give you a background on, ang role ng MIMDA actually is to promote, to coordinate, and to facilitate the active and extensive participation of all sectors to hasten the socio-economic development of Mindanao. So some people are asking, why are you so focused on agriculture and fisheries? Well, it's simply because the backbone of Mindanao's economy is agriculture and fisheries. Take out agriculture and fisheries from Mindanao and you have nothing. So ito yung pinaka-strength ng Mindanao actually. And we have to work on our strengths so that we will be able to compete. Sabi ko nga kanina, stop that foolish dream of manufacturing airplanes or becoming car manufacturers. Even if we want to, we could no longer catch up with the more advanced countries actually. But our greatest strength is in agriculture because of our ideal climate, at least down south, and fertile soil. One lesson that we learned from the pandemic, from COVID-19 is this, and I have been warning this, I've been issuing this warning, even when I was Secretary of Agriculture. I said, we cannot rely on other countries for our food supply. We cannot continue importing our food from other countries. Because the moment na magkaroon ng pandemic or natural calamities, even if we have the money to buy food from other countries, kapag na-disrupt yung global food supply chain, we will have a hard time. And nakita natin yan dun sa pandemic na ito. When for a while Vietnam said, no, we're not going to sell our rice to you because we have to hold on to our own stocks. Now the problem is this. Nakita natin doon sa pandemic na yung isang community will really have to rely on whatever food it produces to feed its people because na-disrupt yung food supply chain. And that is a problem, especially for an islands country like ours. Logistics is one of the most serious challenges in food supply. I was supposed to go to Baguio City for the launching this morning of the Minda Tienda sa Cordillera. Reaching Allen Samar on Wednesday, I had to turn back because of Typhoon Ulysses. Nagkabaha sa Bicol at saka sa Quezon, and until today, the other team from Minda, who is supposed to go to Baguio, are still stranded. So yung ganong mga realities, actually, if you amplify this and look at the global food supply chain, delikado yung dependence on foreign sources of food for our supply. The country must produce its own food for its people. Can we do this? Of course. Of course. You know, when I was DA Secretary, I was ridiculed for saying that the Philippines could actually be rice sufficient. Ang sabi ng iba, and unfortunately, these are people who have not even muddied their feet, no? Yung hindi nakatapak sa pilapil at hindi man lang nakapagtanim ng palay, yung pa nagsasabi na hindi raw pwede. Look, and I would like to emphasize this. Can we be rice sufficient? Yes. Even without expanding our rice farming areas right now, we could be rice sufficient. Why? Because right now, ang ating average production per hectare is 4 metric tons. Okay? But there are farmers, especially in Luzon, who have adopted and embraced modern technology, good irrigation, good seeds, fertilization, mechanization, and access to credit, who are producing as much as 12 to 15 metric tons per hectare. So ang sinasabi ko, even with the current area, harvested area of 4.9 million hectares, if we could only increase our national average production by 2 metric tons from 4 to 6, which is achievable provided we provide our farmers with irrigation, good seeds, and fertilization, we will already be producing an additional 9.8 million metric tons of palm oil. And if you mill that, that will be about 7.6 million metric tons of rice. Ano ba ang ating shortage? Is only 2 million metric tons. So if you compute it, kanya lang ang problema natin sa bansang ito, yung mga ibang legislators natin, nagkukunwaring mas marunong pa sila sa agriculture kasi sa totoong farmer. Yan ang naging problema natin. Legislators and even economists. There is this eternal conflict between the economists and the agriculturists. Yung agriculturist kasi matiyaga nag-aantay. Alam niya na kapag nag-trend ng niyog na yon, 3 years bago mumumunga. Si economist, ang tinitignan niya, yung inflation first na quarterly basis. So kapag tumaas yung inflation number, ang kaagad na solusyon ni economist, mag-import tayo para tunay natin yung merkado ng bigas para bumaba yung presyo. But by doing that, you are actually hurting the rice farmers, and the moment the rice farmers will start planting rice, we are in trouble. So this actually is what I would like to emphasize today, na kailangan talaga nating i-develop yung ating rural areas. It's a pity that I could not take you to the countryside. I hope you young people would have time. Kayo na mga batang mga entrepreneurs, agri-entrepreneurs, I hope you would find time to join me as I move around Mindanao. At ipapakita ko sa inyo kung gaano kalawak yung mga lupang wala pang tanim. You go to Bukidnon. Bukidnon is 1.1 million hectares. You go to Lanao del Sur. Lanao del Sur is 1.5 million hectares. You know, these two provinces alone, ang land area nila is greater than the land area of Israel. Would you believe that? At ang daming area sa walang tanim. Kanya lang, masyado tayo na-focus sa mga malalaking projects. No? Yung, okay naman yung build. Kanya lang sabi ko, hindi dapat na i-abandon natin yung rural development and agriculture in favor of the Build program. Because while admittedly, the Build program will provide jobs temporarily, pagkatapos nating matapos yung pagsasemento ng kalsada, after all of the hammering and the bulldozing, what next? Rural development and agriculture development offers us a more sustainable and inclusive development, which would actually not only provide us sufficient supply of food, but actually provide jobs for the rural folk so that they don't have to go to Manila or they don't have to go abroad, work as housemaids in Saudi Arabia and be exploited and abused kapag na-develop natin countryside. Yung pandemic actually, while previously meron tayong Asian financial meltdown in 2006, naka-recover kagad tayo. But this pandemic, grabe ito. Why? I think we overreacted. I think we were so afraid of something that we did not know much about. At yung ibang measures natin naging knee-jerk. Hindi well thought of yung ating ibang, I'm sorry to say this, no? I'm a member of the official family, but I am called the maverick in the cabinet, no? Because I voice my opinion. Yung halimbawa, yung barrier sa motorsiklo, natatawa ako at naiinit ako doon. I think that was one really ridiculous policy. Lalagyan mo ng barrier yung mag-asawa na nakasakay sa motor para hindi magka-contaminate ng COVID, tapos sa gabi maglilips-lips sila dalawa. Walang yan, namang klaseng policy yan. Saan naman galing yan? No? So ito yung naging problema natin sa pandemic na ito. Sa sobra nating takot, sinakal natin yung ating ekonomiya. To the point that right now, halos takot ang mga tao. But look, I'm sorry to say this, Rob, ha? Pero ngayon, tingnan nyo, ano ang death rate? No, I'm not trying to denigrate, no, or belittle, no, the health risks posed by COVID-19. But look at the death rate and compare it to respiratory diseases. It's nothing. Kaya lang nakakatakot kasi sinasabi na walang gamot, walang vaccine. Yun lang nakakatakot dun eh. But sabi ko nga, right now, while before, maski merong meltdown, financial meltdown, continued yung OFW remittance, uninterrupted. Pati yung ating exports and local spending. Today, iba, COVID-19 broke this pattern. Ngayon, sarado yung mga restaurants, apektado yung mga hotel, walang gustong pumunta sa resort, ni sumakay ng bus, ayaw. Ako, ayaw kong sumakay ng eroplano. Mas gusto kong bumiyahe by land from Mindanao to Manila. It's safer, palagay ko, because of yung fear of the unknown. No? So, but even with these problems, actually, I have always believed in saying, every crisis offers opportunities. Yes, nagkaroon tayo ng crisis because of COVID-19. But this actually provides us with an opportunity. Now, ang ating mga economists, for example, are looking back at the rural areas now. No? Say, for example, ngayon lang na-emphasize that Mindanao actually, which I cover as chairman of the Mindanao Development Authority, provides 40% of the national food requirements of the country. And we actually contribute 30% to the national food trade. 45% ng mga isda at marine products come from Mindanao. So para sa amin, itong nangyari ngayon offers us a window of opportunity because right now, our economists have realized that while all other sectors were affected adversely by COVID-19, yung agriculture sa fisheries actually, yun yung mayagpag. Because maski ano pang mangyari, people may opt not to go to movie houses. They may opt not to go to restaurants or resorts, but they cannot opt not to eat. So at the end of the day, nakita natin na itong COVID-19 pandemic actually offers us a window of opportunity. Now, this is where we're coming in. Right now, yung Mindanao Development Authority is building our own local food supply chain. We are now encouraging our corn-producing towns in Mindanao to establish their own silos so that yung produkto nila ng mga farmers mapupunta sa silo, and then we could supply the country steadily because we could store corn in those silos for up to 18 months. So, magiging sufficient yung aming supply ng corn. Well managed and then protektado si farmer. We are also encouraging fish farming. You can see here the fish cages. We have very wide coves in Mindanao at saka malinis yung tubig namin. We are now developing a 50,000 hectare area in Bukidnon for vegetable production. And we are encouraging local poultry production by introducing grain production of sorghum and corn. So ang ating strategy ngayon, given the effect of the pandemic, is to establish a self-sustaining food security strategy. So right now, ang Mindanao Development Authority, because we're getting some funds from EU, dun sa MINPAD RICE, Ang pinopropose namin ngayon is to establish a Mindanao food map, food supply and demand map. Within Mindanao, we would like to establish which province produces what product in excess of its requirements. And then i-couple namin siya doon sa isang probinsya within Mindanao na nangangailangan ng produkto yon. Like say for example, Bukidnon produces a lot of vegetables. Zamboanga del Norte produce a lot of fish, but they lack vegetables. So pag-aasawahin namin yan under the Mindanao Food Supply and Demand Map. And then by doing this, we'll be able to come up with an accurate food inventory through a digital platform. In fact, yung isa sa mga projects na pinopropose namin sa EU, yung establishment ng fish centers in the different fishing grounds all over Mindanao, na kung saan ay magkakaroon ng ice plants, cold storage, and all of these processing facilities para yung mangingisda will be encouraged to catch more fish because alam niya na makakarating sa merkado yung kanyang isda sapagkat meron siyang post-harvest facilities saka ice. Alam niyo ba na ang tuna napakarami sa Mindanao, kanya lang ang limiting factor yung kakulangan ng ice. Ice candy yung ginagamit ng ibang mangingisda para i-preserve yung malalaking tuna, which is actually causes a lot of waste. In addition to that, ang pinaka-importante actually ngayon is not only production but access to the market of our farmers and producers. So we came up with a program called Mindachenda, and it comes in two forms. It comes in a virtual Mindachenda, which you could access online, mindachenda.com. You could order there. And then we also have this physical Mindachenda, where we bring our farmers and producers to Manila. They're in Baguio right now. Next will be in Chinatown. Cebu is asking for it. Other cities all over the country are asking for it because they would like to see what Mindanao produces. And ang purpose ng Mindachenda is not only to sell but to introduce products from Mindanao and link our farmers and producers to the big market out there. So yan yung isang advocacy namin. Like say for example, in the Mindachenda sa Manila, isang Mindachenda ang nabenta namin 46 million worth of Mindanao products. Organic rice, durian, marine products from Tawi-Tawi. And right now, nasa Baguio kami, ini-introduce namin yung Minda beef. Mga baka na kinatay na pinapakain ng pinya at napakasarap ng karne. And then meron kaming mga canned chicken products from chicken produced in Mindanao. So, this is the Minda Buy and Sell portal, mindachenda.com. Ito yung kaakibat ng aming physical Mindachenda. Ito yung virtual Mindachenda. You could order online. And by the first or second week of December, we will be launching the Mindanao Food Skyway. Aris, ito yung sinasabi ko na pinaka-problema natin, Rob, sa Pilipinas actually, yung interconnectivity. Like say, for example, ngayon tinamaan tayo ng Ulysses. The only way to bring our supplies to flooded areas in Luzon, for example, is by air. Pero walang regular na gumagawa niyan. So Mindanao now, under the Mindanao Development Authority, has partnered with a new air cargo company. It's called PSI Air 2007. They have 3 Boeing cargo planes, and we will be launching the Mindanao Food Skyway first week of December. Dapat ngayong sa Baguio, pero nagkabagyo, kinulang yung aming mga produkto na i-hold because we need at least 15 metric tons para mabiyahin namin. So sa Mindanao Food Skyway, ang concept very simple. From Mindanao to any point in the Philippines by plane. You want to buy fish from Tawi-Tawi for as long as the volume is at the level which would make it economical to fly it, say 15 tons at least to 20 tons, we will fly it for you. And then kung anong kailangan namin, we could use the same plane, Boeing 727 saka 737 to bring down supplies to Mindanao, supplies that we need. So ito yung mga critical programs na ginawa namin ngayon, which we believe would actually address the problems we saw with the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. So ito yung photos ng mga Mindatienda natin. Would you believe, Rob, nasa Bukidnon, kapag peak harvest season, ang carrots actually, ang isang kilo ng carrots actually could go down to as low as 5 pesos per kilo. But what we're trying to do is to, encourage our farmers, helping them complete the value chain. Hindi pwedeng puro carrots lang na raw ang ibebenta namin. Dapat at least ma-process nila carrot juice or whatever. Ito yung mga programa natin, no? The Mindanao Corn Grains Program, as I mentioned earlier, allows farmers to deposit their produce during peak season na mababa yung presyo and then sell during off-harvest season when the prices go up. Etong dalawang area na ang mag-uumpisa nito sa pilot areas, Baungon, Bukidnon. I will be there on November 25 and Misamis Oriental. No? Sila mag-fund. And then, as I've mentioned earlier, the Mindanao Food Supply and Demand Map, yung ating advocacy to produce our own food. And yung aming panawagan na dapat yung importation, lalo na nung bigas, nasaktan talaga ng ating mga rice farmers. Tama lang dapat sa kung anong kailangan. Hindi pwedeng saktan natin yung ating mga magsasaka sapagkat the moment na nagtampo yan at hindi na pagdating ng panahon, Vietnam will not be able to supply us with the same volume of rice that they're exporting right now because they also have a growing population. In addition to that, the other risk would be climate change and another pandemic. So ito yung sinasabi natin na these are the lessons that we learned from COVID-19 pandemic. We should ensure that we are able to produce our own food. We should not be dependent on other countries because in times of pandemic, the most common reaction, the normal reaction of any leader would be to look after the interest of his own constituents. Vietnamese Prime Minister, for example, would always check whether he has enough rice for his people before exporting rice to the Philippines. Kaya sinasabi natin, yung pandemic actually hurt us, but we are also seeing windows of opportunities because of the pandemic. So yun yung aming presentation, and I think it's an indirect answer to the question raised earlier by Rob. How do you compare pre-COVID with post-COVID? Pre-COVID, masyado tayong pa-easy-easy. Sige lang, di ba? Maraming bigas sa Vietnam. Post-COVID, hoy, teka muna. Baka tumama uli ang isang pandemic or may climate change or may El Nino. Baka mawalan tayo ng supply ng bigas. So we have to produce our own food. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary. We have to produce our own food. That's a very enlightening tawag nito, takeaway of this presentation. Now we proceed with our other speakers. Sec, if you may.
Yeah, please go ahead. Thank you.
If yung ano natin. Okay. Thank you very much, Sec.
Okay.
Now we go to the logistics area. We have already seen the Mindanao agricultural situation. Now we go to the logistics sector, and which is also being also happening or has presence in the city. Now we go to let me introduce again the co-founder of the Street Buy, Ms. Cherry Ann Lee Angoy. How has the pandemic affected your business? And tell us more about the Street Buy.
Yes, good evening, Rob. Again, this is Sherry Ann Liangoy, a proud Mindanaoan technopreneur. Street Buy is actually a kabalikat ng small, medium enterprise sector. We are allies of the SMEs, and our mission is to provide an affordable lifestyle platform that's going to help our SMEs embrace the much needed digital transformation adoption of the SMEs. We actually, started Street Buy because of very staggering data from the Department of Trade Industries that about 80% of the SMEs that register every year fail. So parang nakakatakot naman yung data, no, na 80% over 500,000 small medium enterprises na nagre-register every year, they actually fail. So with that, because we have a lot of families that are in the small medium industries, we've seen the struggles, we've seen the things that needed help. We put up Street Buy, and in a nutshell, Street Buy is where buyers and also consumers meet to transact various services. When I say various services, this include food delivery, it includes grocery. We partner with some regional grocery stores such as Gaisano and Ororama. We also have personal shoppers and virtual shoppers that we partnered with SM and Ayala malls, specific certain SMs and Ayala malls, and we have so many other services that before the pandemic was operational, such as hotel bookings, including professional services on the platform, but we've kind of put that on hold because we had to pivot a little bit. With Street Buy, we're currently live in a few cities in Mindanao, including Davao City. We're also live in Malaybalay, Bukidnon, Valencia, Iligan, and CDO. We're proud to say that we've been able to help over 1,500 partner merchants on our platform. So to answer your question earlier about how has COVID-19 affected our business, I'll tell you that it's been a roller coaster ride. If I'd be lying to you if I say, hey, the delivery industry where Street Buy is in right now, I'll be lying if I say, hey, everything's fine, business has increased. It's been really a lot of ups and downs, lots of hard decisions that we've made, but at the same time, we had a lot of learnings that we can take with us as we continue our journey at Street Buy. And Street Buy did not skip a beat during the lockdowns. Even right now, we didn't suspend our operation due to the pandemic. We truly considered our team as frontliners. We understand the difficulty our community is facing, so we continued our operation. Yes, it's tough because we had to quickly restructure the team and we had to change our setup just like everybody else, right? The work from home, the internet connection, challenges. So we had to quickly, adopt and really find solutions on those challenges as we progress. Now, we had to quickly pivot because before the pandemic, about 80% of the transactions on our platform was on food delivery. Now, during the lockdown, again, we said, okay, what's the core? What's really our mission? And our mission is to truly help the SMEs, right? So with that, we wanted to really help the community bounce back. We wanted to minimize the spread of COVID. So within a 2-week span, we had to come up with a new service, which was our grocery service. And in that 2-week span, I can't even imagine how we completed it, but we added a new service, which means there's a new user interface. Our dev team has worked really day and night to complete that user interface. And then, we weren't shy. We reached out to the local partners such as Gaisano. We reached out to major partners to really knock on their doors and present the value that we can provide to their business as well as the community. So just to maybe kind of wrap it up, for me, it's the pandemic has truly gave us a lot of learnings. The pandemic has forced us to pivot and really look at what is most needed of the community right now. And last but not least, we really stuck to our mission, which is to support the small, medium enterprises during this pandemic and the crisis that we're facing right now.
Wow, that's very great. And that's very eye-opening because I have also covered, when I was still in the media, I've also covered some of the food delivery services. And there is a boom, we can say, because, people are already in their homes. And it seems to me that there is also some part of it that negatively affect the food delivery services. So we will explore that more later. This time we are going to know the perspective or the lessons and the experiences of an example of an entrepreneur, a business, a small business, but has made great impact. So, Sir Aristelo, would you like to tell us more about the Varaco and the Templado, your enterprises, and how has the COVID-19 pandemic affected your business, especially that your enterprise is an agriculture-based business, sir?
Yeah. Thank you again, and good evening, Rob. Good evening, Sir Manny, Cherry, and everyone listening to this Launchpad. It's so wonderful to hear a lot of things, successes, and challenges from Cherry Ann, from Sir Manny, and I'm sure you've been doing a lot of things on how to overcome the pandemic. The unique thing about us here in Batangas is that prior to the pandemic, I experienced firsthand the Taal volcanic eruption. And I have been struggling since January because we were the first to be struck with a disaster early in the year. So we had great plan last year, and then we had a positive net income towards December, and then we're gonna use that for another expansion come February. But then Taal volcano erupted. So what we're gonna do? We were like caught off guard. Just one night, we woke up, and then there's the eruption. And then there were a series of earthquakes for a month. So why and how did we overcome it is something that still amazes me na mag-December na, paano natin na-overcome? Parang, wow, ano ginawa ng team namin? So allow me to tell you about Varaco Inc. and Templado. Actually, Varaco Inc. started as a single proprietorship in 2017, and we started with a 1,500 pesos investment, and now it's valued as around 10 million pesos. So Varaco Inc. is a manufacturing company that manufactures coffee. So we have different coffee and that. So that's why this is the reason why we've been winning several awards. So we're manufacturing coffee, we're manufacturing chocolates, something like that, and many other, and kakanin, and kape, kakao, pakanin, and other rice mills. So that's what we manufacture in Varaco. And we own 15 trademarks, including one patent. So in the span of 3 years, that's what Varaco has accomplished so far. So it's a corporation, it's a manufacturing coffee. And the other one is Templado International Corporation. It is a coffee shop restaurant that offers what we manufacture from Varaco Inc. So we have two corporations, two separate corporations. So Templado just opened recently, just this pandemic. It was supposed to open last February, but because of the Taal volcano eruption, we had to move it to March. Then we have to move it again we have to move it again to July. So we were supposed to immediately open it, but because of the Taal volcano eruption and the pandemic, we had to review our business model. From 5-phase business model, we expanded it to 8 phases. So we're now at phase 4. So what we did after Barako is we launched our own e-commerce in response to the pandemic and the Taal volcano eruption, so that we can continue to help our smallholder the farmers. So imagine losing 75 million pesos worth of coffee in Batangas. Where are we going to get our coffee? How are we going to help our smallholder farmers? Yung mga kaping inakiingatan nila na aanihin na sana, wala na. Wala na yung mga kape nila. So what are we going to do? We have to think so fast. Are we going to get from the private companies? Are we going to get coffee from Benguet, from Mindanao? There's so many things. So what we did is we partnered with other technology institutions, and we created our e-commerce. So that became our phase 2. And then our phase 3 became putting together na, binilisan namin na i-put up na yung store that despite the pandemic. So why are you opening a store despite the pandemic? So we reviewed so many history in the history of entrepreneurship. So many of the entrepreneurs, many of the businesses opened during a pandemic, after a world war. It's a post-war advocacies or endeavors like Philippine Airlines. They opened in July 31, 1940 something. So it's after a war. So many of the great entrepreneurs, or many of the great businesses operated or opened during or after the pandemic. So the combination of Barako Inc. and Templado, the combination of that creates an interesting food value chain within the context of an e-commerce and then another physical store. So what we did is that we use a human ecological perspective. It's the core of our business, of our entrepreneurship journey, human development, focusing in the ecology of the human, of the person, and then understanding the elements around it, whether it's a supply chain, whether it's agriculture, whether it's the logistics, or many other things. So we put them in one platform, thus we created a phase. So why do we cover this kind of human ecological perspectives? That because we have been providing jobs to the non-formal sector, people who do not have formal education, like the elderly, the single moms, the mothers whose husband lost jobs because of the pandemic, the farmers. So we have been hiring this. Imagine when we launch opening a certain position, in one day there were like 100 job applications. That's how deep the impact of the pandemic at the same time of the volcanic eruption. So I said we have to keep going. We have to carry on and tap all these people who are in the non-formal sectors. And true enough, we're so happy that we're opening more branches. We have now 20 more inquiries for opening more stores, and our e-commerce is expanding. We have partnership with Grab Food, we have partnership with the Grab Express. So many things are opening up because of just one thing. Our principle is that you help, because it's by helping others that you will help yourself, and that they will also help you because they will believe in you and they will patronize your product. So it's like more than the food supply chain, but you create value. You put value in each step of the supply chain, from the farmers up to the consumers. The consumers are not just no longer end users, but they are also part of every step. They are becoming a great value of the value chain. That's why the title of this is Reimagining the Food Value Chain, or the food industry in the new normal. Just like that, in my position as someone who had experienced the Taal volcano eruption, we were afraid. We were something parang hindi mo na alam gagawin mo. We suspended our operations for a few weeks and then open up again. So it's something like I can continue to inspire and give the journey, to share that journey to others. It's like the situation was so heavy, we had to recalibrate, regroup, and review our business plan. When the pandemic pushed us to quarantine for a long time, we felt challenged. So that's why we created that 8-day strategy for our business. So yeah, we want to stimulate the supply chain as we purchase coffee from the farmers, smallholder farmers, and other private groups in Batangas. So yeah, that's all what I can say about our two companies and how pandemic has impacted us during this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sir Aristelo. It's really amazing that the pandemic is not always the bad side, or has not always given negative impact, but also opened up opportunities for small businesses, and to also opportunities, some windows for our young entrepreneurs to explore as well. How else can they enter? How else can they help? Because Hulk Price, the one of the priorities of Hulk Price, aside from creating businesses that will improve outcomes, provide economic empowerment, give jobs, is also impact. So that is the goal of the Hulk Prize, and that those tips and lessons that you have shared to us, Ms. Sherry Ann, Sir Aris, and Sec Manny, are very valuable for our startup challengers, our Hulk Prize challengers, to think of how are they going to ideate their impact driven enterprises in the next days as they join the Hulk Prize 2021 challenge. It's very nice. So now we go to some of the nitty gritties. No, we wanted to know to set money, because of course we know that the food supply, or the agriculture situation in Mindanao, although there's pandemic, but the production is still going on. I mean, there's still a lot of produce, kumbaga. So, what were the areas that you think still needed help, or what kind of possible enterprise that the students, or the people interested or listening to us right now, can actually venture into, to either improve or to help what is lagging behind in the agriculture sector, if there's any. Sir?
Alam mo, Rob, Cherry, Chris, ang isang magandang nangyari sa COVID-19 na ito, naging agripreneur yung mga bata. Lahat nagbebenta. Lahat na binibentang kung ano-ano online, ha. And you know, it actually developed the business the business talent of young people. You'd be surprised, no? May nagbebenta ng balot diyan online, may nagbebenta ng kung ano-ano online. And you know, it's something that I'm happy to witness actually. So, ano ang ibig sabihin nito? In times of difficulties actually, Filipinos, no, yung kultura natin, we are so creative, and we try to come up with measures that could help us overcome a problem. So ito yung opportunity. Like say for example, ito, pakita ko sa inyo. While I'm joining you sa webinar, yung mga tao ko nagtatry ng lahat ng flavor ng ube. Kasi ngayon lang nakatanggap ako ng simple lang ito, Cherry, ha. Yung ube na galing sa bukid noon, na tinulungan ko lang yung farmer doon. And then we came up with our own formula. And then pinost ko sa Facebook. Ngayon, katatanggap ko lang ng text from SM kung available na ba daw at pwede kaming magbenta sa SM ng ube. Sabi ko, teka muna. Kukuha muna kami ng nutritional analysis at saka yung shelf life analysis from SGS. And of course, FDA CPR, no? Because you could not sell any food item without a certificate of product registration from FDA. So ganun, ito yung nakita ko na magandang nangyari. And this is an area where young entrepreneurs actually could go into food processing, completing value chain. Kasi ang kulang talaga sa ating agriculture sa fisheries, yung complete value chain. For so long, our farmers have been just relegated to that lowly status of being just the raw material producer. Kaya hindi niya kontrolado yung presyo. He is at the mercy of the trader and the middleman. No? Now, with what's happening right now, natututo na tayo ngayon na i-complete yung value chain kasi may requirement ka locally. Since before, pagbili mo ng, say, saging for example, diretso na. Pagbili mo ng ganitong produkto, diretso na. Ngayon, our fishermen and our farmers are discovering that if you complete the value chain, you produce, you process, you market, mas malaking kikitain mo. So ito yung nakikita ko na magandang nangyari dun sa COVID-19 pandemic na yan.
All right, thank you so much, Sec. So, completing the value chain, value adding our produce here in Mindanao, that's one great opportunity for business. I would like to ask Miss Cherry Ann, no, because some of your most, if I don't know if most, but or your merchants are into food MSMEs. So along the way, while you're experiencing the challenges and you're coping, you're changing, you're pivoting during the pandemic, what have you seen or have realized that the logistics industry or the food delivery service industry should be needing? Parang naisip nyo na this could have been better if this one stuff. What was that one stuff na naisip nyo, or has it even occurred in your parang realization in your pivoting?
You know, I don't think there's one thing, Rob, but I would say that, you know, in Mindanao kasi, what I've noticed is that a lot of our SMEs, they're very hesitant to technology and innovation. Before the pandemic, when we are scouting and looking for partner merchants, either it be restaurants, hotels, you know, it could be a mom and pop store, whatever it may be, they're very hesitant. It's almost like the traditional entrepreneurs, the traditional business people, it's almost like they have this mentality of, if it's not broken, let's not fix it. So when we're talking to them about the benefits of embracing digital innovation, when we're talking to them about the benefits that Street Buy could provide, they're very hesitant. They're like, no, you know what? Everything's fine, everything's dandy. So when the pandemic hit, what we've noticed is that there's a lot of business owners who we've reached out to in the past that said no to us, and all of a sudden it's almost like they're knocking on our doors because they want to be on the platform. Obviously, because you know there's a mandate from the government that they couldn't really have people come in. The store has to be for delivery only. So if I would have to go back, you know, I hate to say it, but it's almost like we told you so, right? We told you a long time ago that as entrepreneurs, as business people, we're going to get left behind if we're not going to embrace innovation, if we're not going to start little by little to embrace digital transformation. When we say digital transformation, it's really a holistic approach for the business. But we also know that for SMEs, we have to scale it down a bit because their resources and maybe the technical skills might not be so robust. So maybe it would be like step by step, little by little, that they had to embrace digital transformation so that when the pandemic hit, they were already ready, right? So some of the business partners that we've had who's been on the platform prior to the pandemic, who's been active on it, who's already been learning, how they can leverage and take advantage of the platform. When the lockdown happened, it's almost like they just skip a bit for a really short period of time, but then after that, they're back on track, right? They're back on track, and I wish that we could have been better at Street Buy in positioning it to the traditional businesses so that we could have done our jobs to help them and guide them, and not foreseeing the pandemic, but we could have already maybe helped them prepare for it. So I think that's the biggest realization from a business partner perspective. On our end, maybe we could have, speed up or focused on groceries and other necessities prior to the pandemic. That way, when it already came, everything was already up to speed, and we could have been much prepared. So maybe foreseeing what's truly needed by the community and not have to wait for something drastic to happen for us to respond. So those were really the two main things that I would say, was a big aha for us.
Thank you so much. I'm just very curious. No, you said that they were hesitant to take innovation or to adopt innovation. What have you seen is the reason, and are you also seeing that is this gonna continue in the next few years, perhaps, or some might go back to the traditional businesses?
I doubt it. I think that this pandemic opened the small, medium enterprise industry. It opened their eyes. And think about, in the past, not a lot of traditional businesses have Facebook page. But because of this, they're starting to put their Facebook page so that they can start selling online. I doubt that they're gonna go back because they've really seen the value of this. But I'll give you an example. In the past, they would be hesitant because one, they'd say, so this means I have to have a stable internet at my establishment. This also means I have to spend extra money so that I can have a cell phone that I can leave behind the establishment so that they can accept orders, right? So the way they're thinking about it are that these are extra expenses rather than looking at this as an investment so that you can, expand your customer base and you can also expand your market. But now they've been able to get a taste of how innovation and technology can help and support in sales, in marketing. I doubt it, I doubt that they're going to go back. And there's a lot of resources out there, resources like this, resources from DTI like Go Negosyo and so many other webinars. I think there's so much learning that now they've been able to see it, and they're going to really run and go with this.
All right, and knowing that it's gonna continue, maybe some of our future challengers here might be thinking, what could be other innovations or enterprise that I can venture into that might supplement or support this kind of movement or this kind of trend in our food supply and our businesses as well. So
Rob,
I would like to,
I
yes.
I do want to just add one thing on that. I think that the one sector that still need more help than others would be the micro small businesses, right? Yung mga sari-sari store, much smaller than small, medium businesses. Because I think there's still an opportunity for them to somewhat embrace it. But I think that's an underpenetrated, undervalued sector of the SMSEs.
All right, so that's very interesting now because we always think of MSMEs, the level of already the SMEs. So sometimes we forget that we mentioned micro, but our perspective of or our idea about it is the SME already. So that's a very interesting take, ma'am. So I'll go to Sir Aris, no, because your coffee and cacao is sourced from is it sourced from Batangas, sir?
Yes, Batangas and Mindanao.
Batangas and Mindanao. So how many farmers are on board Barako and Templado?
We're partner with a group of hello. Yeah,
Yes.
our partner farmers here in Batangas. There are around 264 smallholder farmers. So that's how big it is for the coffee. For the cacao, we're tapping a private group. So it's a cooperative. So I actually don't know how many cacao farmers there are there. But right now we're putting our own farm. One is a 4-hectare farm, and another one is a 23-hectare farm where we want to plant our own coffee and our own cacao here in Batangas. Especially with the Liberica coffee. Nauubos na kasi yung totoong kapeng Barako yung Liberica. There are four varieties of coffee. We have Robusta, Arabica, Excelsa, and Liberica. And because here in Lipa, we have Nestle here, in which they focus more on the Robusta or Arabica, nawala yung kung saan yung talagang pinagmamalaki namin sa Batangas, which is the Liberica. So we're trying to salvage it na hindi siya maging extinct. Kasi nagkakaroon ng what they call grafting ng Liberica and Excelsa. So there are many elements there that we are trying to observe. So we're focusing on these farmers. At Mindanao, you're doing well, you're doing good in cacao. So kami yung tinuturuan ng Mindanao about that aspect. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask as well. What was your challenges in this parang almost the same premise with Ma'am Cherry Ann, no? So parang what have you seen that in this kind of business, because Ma'am Cherry Ann is logistics, now sa inyo is the food related enterprise. So what have you seen is you think na sana merong ganito or sana merong ganitong mga innovation or kind of business that can support your businesses as well or other people in your daily operations?
Yeah, there were so many challenges, but I will focus on 3 items that we had struggled with since the Taal volcano eruption, a series of earthquakes for a month, and then we have the pandemic. So it's like there were 3 disasters. So, in business model kasi namin, we want it to be within the context of disaster preparedness, disaster mitigation, and disaster response. So that's what we've been doing. So the 3 main challenges that I've been experiencing since that time, since the Taal volcano eruptions. One is the unavailability of coffee and other materials. Second was the physical distancing challenge. And third is the limited capital to cover for the suspension of operations. So for the availability of raw materials, we decided to go beyond Batangas. So there are still other areas where we can get this kind of coffee. We have Benguet, we have Cavite, we have Mindanao, we have Bukidnon, the Bukidnon in Mindanao. We have many other areas which we can get more of these materials. So we also decided to get from private farms, aside from the smallholder farmers that we're helping right now. So because about 17 million pesos worth of coffee was wiped out by the eruption, so we had to expand our circle of sources of raw materials. For example, Minda has been offering, has been providing, has planning to provide metric tons of materials from Mindanao to Baguio. That's like miles, thousands of miles away from there to there. So it's the same thing. We're trying to expand our circle. For the physical distancing challenge, the second major challenge is that we created our own e-commerce, in which this is aligned to what Ms. Cherian has been telling us a while ago. It's about being innovative and being open, being flexible, because it would be a hypocrite to tell people that it's easier to do business. It's easier to find an idea and then implement it. The truth is that it's hard. It's hard. It's not easy because you have to continuously think outside the box. And then how are you going to implement it? Especially now, there's this physical distancing challenge. So you put things virtually. So we put our own e-commerce aside from partnering with other delivery platform. So we thought of it as an investment. So like we're gonna spend this. So it's an expense right now. Well, of course, when you put it in the balance sheet, it's an expense. But in the long run, it's also an investment. So you're looking at that expense as an investment to improve. So we put that own e-commerce. We started that e-commerce last March, and then we launched it last July. So our own e-commerce of www.templado.com.ph contains all about us, kape, kakao, kakanin, where people can know more about us and at the same time buy our products on that platform. Now our e-commerce has expanded, and we are now in partnership with major delivery service such as Foodpanda, Order Mo in Olongapo, in Subic. So we have a lot of partnership. Or maybe when we go to Mindanao, we can partner with Street Buy, with Ms. Sharon, of course, because that's wonderful to hear, and we can tap Minda, to help us source more of this. So it's like that. So for the capital part, which is the hardest challenge, of course, we had utilized our net income from last year. So because we had to suspend our operations and continue our support to our staff, so we had to use portion of it to support our staff. Giving them ayuda, giving them some monetary support. It's mandated by DOLE, so we cannot stay away from that responsibility. At the same time, because it's our people, we have to love our own people. So, and the infusion of equity from our partners, and we'll continue to attract potential investors to help us further expand. So altogether, we're creating our disaster resilient or disaster prepared company because of these three challenges. Now we know what to do. It's like we have created a business continuity plan using these three challenges. So we saw an opportunity to improve. So yeah, that's all, Rob. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, sir. So, as we talk about pandemic, also there's also the issue on how to stay afloat, right? So maybe this time it's not so much on the food, but on the business aspect. Siguro, I would like this following questions will be about the business aspect. I would like to encourage everyone to, if you have questions, you can chat them on our Zoom chat link or through our comment section on Facebook. That's Health Price at University of Mindanao. And siguro, buena mano na tanong na lang for about the business is coming from Giselle Mejorada. I believe he's a student. Good evening. I would just like to ask if there are any changes in the ethical policies of businesses before and after pandemic that the students interested in business should be aware of. Sir, anyone can start?
The question is for me.
For perhaps for our entrepreneurs, sir, then
Yeah.
Miss Cherry Ann.
Okay, sige. Maybe I'll answer first. Ethical policies, I don't think there are any ordinances or government policies that talk about ethics, because ethics is Israel is a relative, so it's different from the regions geographically. So I don't remember any ethical policies mandated by the government, but it's more of inside, it's intrinsic to the company or to the group about this our ethical policies in our business is to look after our people first. After the welfare, it's people before profit. So we have, because it's our resource, it's a human capital. So it's the one. People are the ones that make us stay afloat. So it's a teamwork. So it will lose these people. It will be harder to get another people. You will have to train them again. So my answer to that question is that it's a business specific. But I would advise that you look after your people first before money. Yeah, that's it. That's my
I
answer.
think yes, that's also the essence of creating a business with impact, no? Is to help the people and to prioritize them. Miss Cherry Ann, you have an answer to this question.
Yes, similar to what Aris mentioned earlier, the way I see it is ethics, either with the pandemic or with no pandemic. So I think that's a given. I would rather say that it is more of the responsibility, right? So right now, whenever we do business, whatever aspect of the business that we do, whatever decisions that we make, we always think about our responsibility to the community, our responsibility to minimize the spread of COVID, our responsibility to the safety of our employees, to the safety of our customers and our merchants. So one example of that from a responsibility perspective, I'll share three with you. The first one is when the pandemic first happened, we said, oh, wait, our cashless payment at StreetBuy need to improve. So we immediately reach out to GCash because we used to not have GCash. So we, arrange how we could quickly have GCash as another option on our platform. For our grocery services, it was cash on delivery when we first launched it. And so, we started really working on how can we, really add more value. And it's always about thinking, what's our responsibility to the people, to the community? The second example of that is, we started an StreetBuy SME campaign. Our business model at StreetBuy is we get a commission from every sale that happens on our platform. But then again, we thought about what's our responsibility to the SME community. So because of that, we launched what we call SME1, which is a program intended for the SMEs, and we don't get any commission from our partner merchants if they actually want to avail this service. On top of that, we started creating our webinar series where we would teach SMEs about different aspects of the business, either it be marketing, financials. So, that's the second thing from a responsibility perspective we did. The third thing is we understand that everybody is struggling right now. We are even struggling. And so we said, how can we help our employees? So we provided, or we've extended 100% of the delivery fee to our riders. So instead of making a little bit of money from the delivery fee, we decided, let's give it to our riders and we'll make money in some other ways. So for me, it's more on thinking about, social responsibility rather than ethics. And we've truly responded to that call on how we can be more responsible as technopreneur, Mindanao and technopreneur.
All right, thank you very much. We are so pressed of time. We still have a lot of questions, and we still wanted to talk to you, but we will be ending at 8. So maybe for the parting words na lang, we are going to answer the final question. How, to our speakers, how can the youth contribute in reimagining the food industry in the times of pandemic? I would like to start with Sec Piñol. Sec? Hello, Sec Manny? Okay, so
Okay. Yeah, anyway, yung mga bata naman masyadong creative. Basta ang importante at this point in time, the most important commodity right now is food. Okay? Forget everything else. Yung mga pamilya ngayon, ang concern nila is saan kukuha ng pagkain for the next meal. So ito siguro yung area na kung saan yung mga bata could come up with great ideas. What kind of food would communities need right now or families need right now? How do I supply it? Or if I don't supply it directly, where would I get it? Paano madadagan yung value ng raw materials and complete the chain? Yun yung pinaka-key phrase, yung complete value chain. From the farm to the market to the consumers. Yun lang siguro ang ma-advise ko sa mga bata.
thank you so much, Sec. That's very valuable. Miss Cherry Ann?
Yes, so yeah, I would say that one is that just like what Sec Manny mentioned earlier, Mindanao is an agri region, and so for our future startup founders, for our future technopreneur, let's try to really utilize the raw materials that are locally available in Mindanao. Let's support the local farmers and use innovation so that they can reach more people and they can reach further for their target market. And last but not the least, I would say never settle. Just like again what Secretary Manny mentioned, you guys are the future of the country. Don't settle. If you see a community problem, let's be a part of the solution. Let's not just complain about these problems. Let's do something about it with the use of technology, with the use of innovation. That way we can help Mindanao be globally competitive. So that's it, Rob.
Thank you very much. That's very inspiring to make Mindanao globally competitive. Sir Aris, your take on this question, sir?
Okay. Reimagining the food industry in the new normal is quite a task. It's overwhelming. It's kasi ang laki nun eh. For me, now disaster is a new normal. Really now part of our daily lives. That's why they call us very resilient. Let us reimagine the food industry within the context of disaster preparedness, disaster mitigation, and disaster response. Starting from our farmers, to our processors, to distributors, to entrepreneurs, up to the consumers, we need to further understand how each of these elements function and affect one another. So for those listening here, the students, I believe that your challenge should be able to focus on any of this aspect because it's where the challenge really begins. In Japan, for example, they created technology that can withstand strong earthquakes, and they lead the world in that. In Singapore, they created systematic housing program to put people above the ground, high from the ground, to protect them too. So hindi sila apektado ng flooding. But in the Philippines, what can we do? Shall we just lead the world in terms of resiliency? Now that the world is experiencing unprecedented disaster, I reimagine a Philippine whose food industry is an interplay of the scientific community, the civil society, the entrepreneurs, the the policymakers and the end users. In the new normal, how can we use technology not just to improve our connectivity, but to also improve our access to quality foods? How can we gather end users nutritional information and food availability in their area? Whether you're in Mindanao, whether you're in Batanes or in Bicol, how? In turn, the information that we gather from each of the step or elements can be used for disaster preparedness, disaster mitigation, and disaster response. So, how can we know the condition of our farmers who produce our foods? And in turn, equip our policymakers with precise ordinance and programs. So it won't just be any other programs, but it's something that that can have impact directly to these elements. So how can we put the end users, be also the farmers, the processor, even the distributor in times of disaster? It's like, even if you are an end user, you can also be a farmer. There are so many questions lingering within this context. Our imagination, especially the students listening here, will bring us forward to creating a new food industry that has PPE, purpose, puso, and empathy. Because for each of the steps, there's a gap. There's always a gap. And it is that gap where we should find that challenge, that idea that our challengers should find. Nasaan yung gap na yon, and then expand it to something that will reimagine the food industry. And I'm sure our good Jumians will be able to find that, something that will make Jumians win this time, the $1 million seed funding for that. And I'm rooting for you all. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I think we are really geared to get that $1,000 seed funding in the Global Finals because sa first webinar pa lang, it's very inspiring, knowledge-packed, and I hope that our future entrepreneurs and our challengers, yes, kinorek ako ng campus director ko, that's $1 million pala daw. Seed capital. Oh. Anyway, so I hope that you all learned a lot from our speakers and somehow you got some ideas already running into your mind in this evening. So thank you so much also to our distinguished guests and for sharing your valuable ideas to our participants here. We are so delighted that we chose you as our participants. It really means a lot to us. And also to officially close and invite you for our next event. I would like to call the HALT Prize, okay? The HALT Prize Visayas and Mindanao Regional Lead for the HALT Prize Philippines, Miss Candice Kristen Lieses, for the closing remarks. Candice?
All right. Thank you so much, Rob. I hope everybody can hear me. To Secretary Pinyol, Sir Aris, Miss Cherry, of course, our campus director and my dear friend, Richard Day, and our participants for today. This is our 4th year with the HALT Prize. We started only with 3 teams. It's amazing how in the span of 4 years, we've transformed the HALT Prize into a sort of tradition in UM. So I myself started as one of your participants on my first year and then as a campus director the year after. In those 4 years, 6 teams from UM have qualified for regionals all around the world. And some of them have done a lot ever since then. This year, we're hoping for more teams from UM to advance to regional. So there's hindi lang isa ang mag-advance. There's always a very big chance that 2, even 3 teams can advance to regionals in the wild card rounds. So if you don't win in our finals, don't lose hope because there's really still a big chance for you to be able to pitch in the regionals. Now, it's only a month away until your next step as a change maker commences. Let's hope that we use this platform to really make pragmatic changes and not simply be change makers on paper. There's so many people to help and there are so many ways to help them as well, with a topic as necessary and as crucial, as human, as food security in a country with so much space for innovation in agriculture. And entrepreneurship mixed with a widespread culture that loves food. I'm sure that our participants here will have no problem conjuring ideas for social change in this topic. Now, if there's any advice I would like to give you aside from the amazing ones that you've already heard from our esteemed speakers today, when you're brainstorming, don't forget to put yourselves in the shoes of who you are trying to help to see what progress is in their perspective, as your project is as much about them as it is about you. Think of the nuances of the situation and, of course, the causes in which these problems stem to widen your perspectives as well. So think of this not simply as a competition, it's just as much as a learning opportunity and a medium to immerse ourselves in quality solutions to help people in sustainable means as well. Thank you so much, everybody, and good luck to all of you. I hope to see you in regionals. All right.
Thank you so much, Miss Candice. We hope to see you in the global finals competition. But anyways, before anything else, we still have more of our webinars, and it is posted on our Facebook page. That's Halt Price at University of Mindanao. So we still have 2 more webinars, and wait for the announcement for our boot camps and the main competition as well. And we also would like to invite you all for a photo opportunity. Where's our our execom here? So we will be, Sir Richard, how are we going to have our photo opportunity? Would you like to moderate
Oh,
or
sure.
to lead?
So, okay. So, dalawang pages tayo. So, I'll just count 1, 2, 3, and on 3, so I'll say smile. Tapos, please everyone turn on your video. So, lahat tayo nasa picture. Okay. Ayan. Ang iba dyan, galing pa yan ng klase, online classes. Alright. So, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay. So, another one for the next page. 1, 2, 3, smile. Alright, thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. And of course, that ends. Meron ka pa bang announcement, Sir Richard?
Wala na.
Wala na. Okay. So that ends our first webinar, Reimagining Food Industry in the New Normal. Thank you very much for participating here on our launch pad, and I hope to see you and register your teams at the Halt Price at .com/um-Philippines. To register your team, you just have to create 3 or more members, a team with 3 or 4 members, and register on that website. So you will find the information on our Facebook page, or message us through our Facebook page or our personal accounts. Pagagalitan ako dito ng mga kasama ko. Anyways, that ends our first webinar. We hope you learned so much and somehow got ideas. And this has been Rob Gumba, the HP at UM Operations Manager and your moderator. Thank you very much and have a great night. Thank you.